And ladies and gentlemen, next on Investing in Asia, please welcome Mr. Nathan Sivagananathan. Please give him a big round of applause.
Good afternoon, everybody. First of all, the name is very long because it's Sri Lankan. And talking about digital systems, when I was coming through the airport, the immigration, my name was too long for it to be processed, so it took me 45 minutes to get through the immigration. But my love for Sri Lanka, my love for Pakistan actually started because Sri Lanka won the World Cup in Lahore. And ever since then, I've had a soft spot for Pakistan. And 6 months ago, to kind invitation from Shahid, I ended up coming to NDU and started really looking at the opportunities in Pakistan. I think Pakistan is at that crux of making a decision on whether it wants to be a Jamaica or whether it wants to be a Singapore. That choice is really now. And when I was looking at what we do in the venture capital world and looking at where we are in Sri Lanka and Southeast Asia, I started drawing some parallels. And today's presentation is really identifying where Pakistan should go. Because what we normally do, as humans are, is we look to the West and what's happening in Silicon Valley, what's happening in Europe, and start comparing ourselves to that part of the world. But when we do look at investments, we look at it differently. And I think one of the key things that I want to talk about today is really comparing Southeast Asia and South Asia and the opportunities that arise for Pakistan because of that. A quick thing on Patamar. What we do is we focus on mass market around this region. We've been investing for the last 15 years. We have 7 offices around the globe, and we're about to sign a partnership today with Seed Ventures in bringing some capital into Pakistan. The opportunities in tech in Pakistan is immense. And when you really look at the population and the opportunities around, you don't have to be shipping goods all around the world. You already have a great STEM education system here. You have 2.5 billion people around Asia, and specifically over 1.9 billion in South Asia. When you look at something like the SME sectors and you look at the opportunities around that in Pakistan, is extremely high. And with a young population and a very educated population, and we have many working in AI for us, this opportunity is something that you got to decide on whether you want to be a Singapore or whether you want to be a Jamaica. Asean is the 5th largest economy in the world at $28 trillion. When we look at the incomes that are rising in those areas, and you look at South Asia and the income rising here, there are certain patterns that you start to look at. And one of the patterns that we always look at is the $10,000 threshold. In 2012, China was at $10,000 threshold, and the e-commerce platforms and all of the digital platforms started doing well, including payment systems, WeChat, etc. And what we started noticing in Southeast Asia now is that Southeast Asia is at that point. It's at that $10,000 level point. And when you look at South Asia, it's getting to that point as well. So the purchasing power is increasing, and what we're noticing is 73% of the people are purchasing something new that they've never purchased before in their life in Southeast Asia. Southeast Asia and South Asia is very resilient as well. When you look at all of the economic crashes, the dot-com crash, etc., the economies still continue to survive. And this is a great indicator as to why that is. Because the population itself is self-sufficient and large enough for it to really conceive itself within that country and really create an economy from the country itself. The other particular reason is that sometimes when you don't have anything, that's the greatest opportunity possible. When landlines were not available and mobile phone technology came, they were able to grow into the mobile phone technology. And every year, that percentage increases. If you look at a 90 million usage increase over the last 3 years in Asean countries, and when you look at the penetration in places like Pakistan, it's very high. But with this high amount of usage, what can you do? And that's what really venture capital we're looking at. How do you bring technology into investment in Southeast Asia? The Indonesian story in the internet economy, 73% of Indonesians are buying something new every year. On average, they have at least 5 platforms that they're using in the digital space. And they continue to load new apps all the time because of that. And that means the economy is really moving to that digital world. Yes, you do need bandwidth. Yes, you do need infrastructure. But I think the basic infrastructure that you have, you can get to that place as well. If you look at the countries individually, 1 in 3 millennials are in ASEAN. They're a mobile-first economy. The economy will grow by 8 times by 2025. Companies in China are moving into these regions because of the growth that's needed, and it's bringing cash. Unfortunately, South Asia still lacks that cash, and that's where the opportunity is for us. Electronic payments are on the increase. The methods of payments are on the increase. Alibaba coming into Pakistan is a great indicator of where things are going to lead. What we need to get to is trying to get to this unicorn level of having at least 1 unicorn come out of Pakistan in the next few years. Whereas in Southeast Asia, the timeline for a unicorn shrunk. So in South Asia, we believe that the timeline for a unicorn will shrink as well. And we should aim towards bringing that 1 unicorn by 2022. There's also another reason when we look at venture capital in this region is the multiples. The multiples that we're looking at today is in ASEAN region is 13.5, 14 times multiples. In this region, we're looking at 4 to 5 time multiple. This is the best time to be investing in Series A, Series B in venture. And that's where the real opportunity is, because when you invest at a 4 times, 5 time multiple, your returns are in the 28, 30% range, and that's where you need to deploy your capital. It's not just in private equity, but in growth capital, in venture capital. What we look at as limited partners in our investors is the consistent returns. And what you're seeing in the last 3 years, the consistent returns have come out of Southeast Asia. They're much higher. And looking at places like India as well. And that, again, is the great opportunity that Pakistan, Bangladesh, Myanmar now has as well. LPs always expect higher returns, and what we're seeing is that over 65 to 70% of the LP returns are over 22%. So if you invest $1 today, the idea is that there'll be a 22% return in a very fast period. And that's where I think patient capital in Pakistan is needed by the families as well. So taking all these learnings from Southeast Asia, what can we do in this part of the world? Well, we have a large population. We have an internet penetration of 30%, where there's an opportunity there. And we have a density of population of 300 for 300 kilometers. So these are all great indicators. But when you look at the GDP, it's 1,600 on average. And when you look at Pakistan, it's 1,600 as well. So how do we get the GDP and the disposable income levels higher? Well, the predicted rate of growth in the mobile phones is very high. It's in the next 5 years in South Asia, it's going to have the highest number of mobile phones that are going to be used. Well, most of the technologies that we need to be investing in, whether it's customs, whether it's clearing, whether it's logistics, you need to be focusing in how do you bring technology in everything we do. And I always do this. I love selfies. And I'm going to take a selfie with all of you because I think We need to remember this day because I'm telling you that Pakistan is at that point where it can become a different country to what it is today. When you look at the regions and the fastest growing region, Bangladesh, Pakistan are way up there in South Asia levels. The population is one, but also the growth rates are very good as well. Yes, you have had a blip. Yes, you have had a dollar blip, but I think you bottomed out, and I think the opportunities for us is now, and that's why we're looking at bringing venture capital into Pakistan. When you also look at the accelerated growth and your consumer-focused technologies, there is an increase on GNI per capita in Pakistan as well. But what's missing is money. Money at angel level is there. Money at family level, control level, where they would like to take a large percentage in startup companies in Series A and B is there. But global venture capital is still not available in South Asia as an overall plot. When you look at the global economy size and the size of the economies in South Asia and Southeast Asia, the amount of money that's deployed by venture capital is very less. So that's why I think attracting more venture capital into Pakistan is a key focus that this country needs to give and make the regulations simple enough for people to invest. I'm going to skip these next two slides due to lack of time, but I'll get to this one. One of the things that we look at are these are the stages that we look at. Can we enter a country easily? Can we develop a good pipeline? Can we screen and do due diligence easily? Can we structure an investment that makes sense for our LPs? And then managing investment and follow-ons and exits. There are two areas that Pakistan needs to work on. One is screening and due diligence. It's sometimes very difficult to get data. And the second is exit. We can help with the exit because when we go in packs as venture capitalists, we were able to attract other venture capitalists to come along. And I feel that if you look at a 7-year horizon in Pakistan and invest for the long term, between 7 and 10 years, then there's the opportunity for you to really get good returns in companies and also get good returns in development technology as well. I'm moving on to my final slide, and this is the one I want to focus a little bit on. So what does all this mean? Technology, you're talking about future, you're talking about venture capital. It all boils down to this chart. There are favorable fundamentals today in Pakistan. That is an underserved consumer, large mass market, affordable mobile phones, growing disposable income, and government support, and a very young population, including myself. But to enable all of this, you need good logistics. In Southeast Asia, they're putting $150 billion into infrastructure. Now, that's a lot of money, but their return on that $150 billion is $25 billion a year. This is per annum numbers. So logistics can only be achieved through technology at a cheaper cost. There are so many logistics companies that are around, and the opportunities for other companies like Food Pandas here on the food side, Uber Eats, they're all, I would say, in a very early stage, but that's really serving the consumer. But logistics across the board in terms of truck utilization, in terms of road utilization, in terms of railway utilization, and digitizing those is the greatest opportunity, and we would invest in companies that are looking at bringing synergies in those sectors. EdTech, we've had a lot of learning on this in Vietnam. 40% of most people drop out at secondary school, and the opportunity to get a university degree is very less. Here's where technology can help. We got a company in Vietnam that we invested very early, and it's been able to scale past Vietnam into other countries, including Thailand, and to different age groups as well. But what they've done is gone into universities, helped those university courses be digitized, and made them affordable so that everybody has access to them. because the number of universities places are very less. And therefore, now you're bringing affordable education through different forms. And there are many different types of opportunities around EdTech that Pakistan can focus on. FinTech, I don't want to know about mobile wallets. I think that's a done deal. Everybody can do it. It's nothing new. I think FinTech is more about creating business models. It's creating credit, it's creating insurance, it's creating SME and MSME, it's creating savings and payments. The opportunity arises in terms of digitizing some of these areas, and it's actually a FinTech play. We had a company in Indonesia, which we just exited to Gojek, which was working on a very simple method. It was trying to understand the shopkeeper at a rural level and how they were trying to serve the community. But at the same time, I think here it's called the committee, where people put money together on a monthly basis or a weekly basis and have a lotto to take the money out. They were using the committee system to really bring product. And I'm trying to understand why do they collect money? What's the product they want to build? And at one point, they had 250,000 outlets that were really serving the community. Now, that's FinTech in a different way, but FinTech with e-commerce as well. So now, why did Gojek buy it? Gojek bought it, and it's called GoPay now, because it's a FinTech play. So it's not just about mobile wallets. And my advice to everybody who's building mobile wallets is there are other business models that you can solve, and look at those business models, because that's where you will make the biggest impact to the community and also be able to grow as well. The third area is e-commerce, and the opportunity for e-commerce is very high. And I think there are already some platforms that are coming across, and you see a high level of engagement with the millennials on the e-commerce sites. But again, on e-commerce, there are different forms of doing it. We've looked at various different industries, how that can be automated, whether it's pharmaceutical. So we have in Philippines and in Indonesia, the largest pharmaceutical chain that's connected all the pharmacies in both of these countries, over 200,000 pharmacies that are working both B2B and B2C in really bringing e-commerce to the consumer at the end. And finally, I'm going to talk a little about health tech, because it's an offline-online model. It's a virtual doctor is a key part of that as well. So how do you bring hardware, which is hospitals, testing, etc.? How do you have the best cardiologist who is living in Karachi treat someone who is 2 hours away? And how do you build those virtual bandwidth within the system to be able to bring EdTech? So these are things I believe that Pakistan has opportunities in. And it's really up to you guys as to whether you want to be a Singapore or whether you want to be a Jamaica. And the time is now. And people in the families that are investing need to get into the venture capital world and start investing in venture capital to really grow these companies to be regional players and not just a country player. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nathan, for the excellent presentation. And I am very glad, Nathan, that you actually mentioned Gojek, because Nadim, the owner, the founder of Gojek, is a very good friend of mine, and I can tell you this, me being based in Indonesia, the convenience of that technological advancement that Gojek has provided for us is, it's like a miracle. The night and day compared to 5 years ago, compared to now, is astonishing. So for that, we thank you so much for mentioning that.